my name's Sophie. I'm the co-founder of Lisa, which is actually short for Live Shopping Assistant. My other co-founder, Philip, also there you go. And we started building Lisa about 2.5 years ago. We were really intrigued by this whole aspect of how you can use live video in e-commerce and how you can entertain and engage customers live. We were never personally the biggest fans of VR and AR, for example, using it in a retail context, because we felt like there are real people and real shopping experiences to be had. Why not think about how you can transfer those into an online space in a fun way, rather than creating virtual worlds? It's just a personal opinion. So we always felt like live video was probably going to push through and sort of take over at some point. And yeah, so that's how Lisa got started. So yeah, as Isabella already mentioned, what we're observing finally happening in Europe and the US as well is this trend that we also call entertainers. So up until maybe 1 or 2 years ago, online shopping was really more driven by convenience purchases, you know, so people were looking online either to get something cheaper or because it was simply more convenient, go on Amazon, reorder, you know, whatever you're looking for. And if you had a specific product in mind, you know, online shopping was just, you know, easy, simple, get the job done. Now, however, what's happening is that as sort of communities are forming online and the whole social interaction is really, really increasing, we find that actually 42% of all product searches are beginning on social media, for example. So that tells us that people are really just sort of flicking and browsing, and they want to be, you know, inspired and entertained and sort of brought onto a discovery journey. And that's a very, very different way of shopping online than, you know, going on Google, typing in hairspray or whatever and getting 100 hits. It's a completely different sort of way of starting and discovering a product. And this is really picking up and of course being accelerated by COVID. Although to be entirely fair, we saw, at least at Lisa, that this way of discovering products online was already accelerating before that, or already really something that even European consumers were looking for. So where are they getting this kind of entertainment now? Obviously via social media, because that is what social media is. They're really good at sort of sensing how people want to interact and, you know, with brands and how they want to learn about new stuff happening. So we saw that more and more generally live streaming started kicking off. Yeah, that's what we find very interesting, that right now social media is dominating the sort of entertainment space, and they're trying to become now, go more into the commerce space. So that's also something I'll talk a bit more about. And so what I'm going to deep dive into just a little bit is live stream shopping as one entertainers format, which we find very exciting. What is live stream shopping? It's literally just combining live streaming with live group chat and interaction. So in some way, the community can interact with each other and with the presenter, and with the online shopping functionalities. So while I'm watching a live show online, I can actually purchase the products that the presenter is showing to me right then and there. So all sort of experiences that we know, except put together into a different kind of way. And it's really interesting to see psychologically what happens with people when they consume or interact via live stream shopping. Why is this so exciting? So live streaming versus, for example, recorded video can actually increase brand engagement up to 600%. And from China, where live stream shopping is already quite established, we know that buying off of live streams can actually increase a brand's online conversion up to 10-fold. So it's not just a little bit more, it's like a lot more.
But how does it, what does it look like? How does it actually work?
Well,
oh, by the way, no, before we do this, has anybody tried live shopping, you know, as a consumer, or have you tried it in your, like, have you either tried to buy it, or have you tried it in your store? I'd love to know, because I haven't. But I've seen attempts of it, I think kind of like on IGTV. They've been,
yeah, I think I'll show a little bit. So right now I have, or the first example that I brought is actually from China, which is like the motherland of live stream shopping. And obviously we have Western brands that are trying to tap into, you know, the potential over there. I've brought an example of Kim Kardashian because, you know, something relatable to everyone, obviously. Let me just run that quickly because I think it's a really also interesting example to discuss and brings it to life a little bit how live stream shopping in Asia works.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, of course. If you're just tuning in, Kim Kardashian West. Hi everyone. So excited to be here. So this is your first live stream to China. You are considered the OG of influencers. I love beauty from so many different cultures. So I was really proud that there are so many amazing influencers in China. Every different fragrance is such an emotional experience for me. A little bit stronger.
Okay, I'll pause at that point. So what you see here is kind of what I described. You have this live stream, and then she's actually selling via Alibaba their own live channel that they offer. And you can see all the like emojis, and there's, I mean, in Asia, we see live stream shopping with so many sort of engagement interfaces beyond the live stream. Whereas here, we're sort of slowly, step by step, getting the users, you know, to interact more, also digitally, let's say. So to us, it seems very bright and sort of perhaps even overloaded. So we do think it's going to feel different and look different in terms of user experience in Europe. But the essentials are the same. You have someone doing a live show, you have interaction somehow via chat, there's a social aspect to it, and you have the ability to buy the products directly. So spurred by the big success of live stream shopping in China, obviously Europe and the US is starting to react, interestingly, quite slowly, at least up until sort of mid last year. In China, you have to know that so first of all, 9% of all Chinese online sales is done via live stream shopping already. So that's 1 in 10 purchases. So that's how ubiquitous it is. So everybody, just, you know, 1 in 10 purchases online done via live stream. So it's a huge market.
Can I just interrupt? So is that, like, in order to have live shopping in your store, do you literally need a phone and I'm assuming the app and basically a selfie stick?
Yes.
Wow,
And
I have all of those things.
exactly. So you could even do it from home. So, I mean, we also are now onboarding brands that are working with influencers that are doing live shopping shows from their home. Also for COVID reasons, they don't necessarily want to do it even from the stores. So they're just, you know, sending products to influencers and they're doing shows from home. Why not? I mean, we have had everything from someone doing a live stream or a live shopping show from a smartphone up into an entire TV studio at QVC. So, I mean, so everything's possible.
So it can go from super low cost and be available to startups like Susan's new company.
It depends, yeah. I mean, if Susan's new company has an online shop, and for Susan it's not more interesting to use a platform, which is something I'll describe, because I think for small to medium-sized brands, using the reach that you can via social media can make a lot of sense when you're building up. And then there's that sort of tipping point as you become bigger, and you want to, you know, sort of have your own online shop in your own audience, in your own environment, that it could make more sense to draw the traffic back into experiences in your own environment, which is what products like Lisa are designed for. So it depends, I guess, a bit the size of the brand and at what sort of point in your development you are, what makes more sense.
Cool. Thank you.
In China, yeah, you're welcome. So in China, we see that, yeah, pretty much the entire e-com market is dominated by big platforms. And they offer this live stream shopping software basically to their vendors for free. Why? Because they want to keep bringing more traffic onto their platform. So it's like a cycle, and it's almost impossible for individual brands to break through that cycle with their own online shops. This was Amazon's reaction, which I thought was very interesting. So Amazon launched Amazon Live sometime last year, I think mid last year. And so as an Amazon vendor, in the US, as far as I know, so far only, you can use Amazon Live to sell products. Yeah, I just took a little screen recording of a show when I was preparing this. This is what the experience feels and looks like on Amazon Live.
That's just cruel, Sophie. After you show us Kim Kardashian, and then
it's free, obviously.
like with the biblical.
don't know, a travel booster car seat was never going to cut it.
I mean, it's also telling that Kim is not on that, because, you know, whatever you say about her, she knows how to sell and she knows where the next social trend is. And if Kim isn't using this, then compute says no.
I think it's generally, I mean, always the same discussion, right? It's what we were discussing before, convenience shopping versus entertainment and sort of social media discovery shopping. And Amazon is trying really hard with these kind of formats to become influential and inspirational and, you know, aspirational, but it's just not who they are. It's not in their DNA, right? So I probably wouldn't go to Amazon Live and be inspired and sort of in the same way that I would go to Instagram or Facebook or to one of the brands that I trust, you know, unlikely.
Yes, Jeff Bezos doing dad dancing at a wedding, basically, isn't it?
Who knows? That I might watch. So what's happening? Yeah, Isabella already mentioned this. So now social media is, you know, becoming more and more commerce oriented, and that's also very interesting to see how big brands are a bit actually fighting against it a little bit. So I don't know if you guys saw, or everybody in the audience saw, Facebook launched shops last week, and they very specifically in all their content, they're adding a new feature, shops, which they target very specifically at small retailers or small brands that do not have their own online shop. So you can go into Facebook, put your 10 products that you're selling, for example, create your own shop. And then if you've done that, then you can do live streaming via Facebook and make those live streams shoppable. That's the sort of next logical step, and this is happening now. But that is only an option, let's say, for small businesses that are willing to sell their products directly on Facebook. Now, the L'Oreals of this world and or many other brands are not likely to start relisting, let's say, their products on Facebook to sell them via Facebook to give away a part of the, you know, commission of the sale, just so they can use the live stream shopping application that Facebook offers to these kind of vendors. And strategically interesting, I think Facebook very specifically targeted small businesses with this because of the blowback that they would probably get from big brands if they said, oh, and now we're doing e-commerce as well, and we're taking that bit of the customer journey away from you too. So yeah, interesting development, but it remains to be seen. Isabella, I don't know how you feel about it, how this will develop for bigger brands in the future.
I was speaking to the product manager on Friday, so I feel like if this was next week, I might have more insight. But right now, I've read about as much as you have. But I think it's interesting to see what adoption will look like, whether it favors certain categories over others. So yeah, we'll watch with interest.
So it would be great to know if anybody in the audience is thinking of setting up a shop on Facebook or has already done that and has an experience to share, or would never do it for whatever reason. We would love to know, so let us know. Yeah, please continue, Sophie.
Okay. Yeah, so this is an example of a brand, a fashion brand in Germany called Orsay. They went live using Lisa 2 weeks ago. And I'm just going to play you a little tiny clip so you can see what that feels and looks like. So they brought in an influencer, brought her into the shop. She engaged and invited people via her Instagram channel before, and then you could just swipe up to join. Lisa gets supported by Instagram and Facebook. So as a user, you really just swipe up or click and you're directly in the experience. And then you have the elements, as I discussed before. Again, you have the live stream, the live interaction via chat. You swipe through the products as a user, and if you like something, you click on it, and then the page opens from the online shop of the brand, where you can directly, you know, finalize the purchase while you're watching the show at the same time. So that, in a very short version, is what Lisa is and how it looks when brands work with software like ours to enable live shopping experience.
And what do they have to do in terms of integration? You know, how difficult is it?
Well, I of course say it's incredibly easy, but no, joking aside, we very specifically designed Lisa as a tool that has zero integration or any API requirements into online shop systems. So we can get brands built up within 1 to 2 weeks, which we're doing at the moment. because you have to imagine we make it shoppable via links basically, and then they get their own Lisa account which they can plan and prepare these live shows in, and then from then on they can, you know, on their own plan their next live shows and just keep the channel growing. And yeah.
Cool. So if anybody's got any questions about this, please type them in. Otherwise, I'll carry on asking mine. Yes.
Go ahead.
So
here's an example. Again, let's just keep it running in the background for sure. And or if you want to have a little dance session, feel free to join. This is a show that Zalando did also 2 weeks ago. They went in a more sort of entertaining, interactive format of a live dance class, which was then made shoppable. I think what we're learning now, and that's the really interesting piece, these brands are testing different types of contents and they're trying to get a sense, you know, their target audience, what do they like, how do they like to be entertained, and at the same time, what actually drives conversion, what actually gets them to, you know, buy. So it's really interesting to see how these brands are testing different people in front of the camera, different sets, different settings, different formats. And for us, it's also really cool to see how users are interacting and the kind of feedback they're giving. So for example, the net promoter scores of the users after these shows are extremely high. Conversion rates are higher than online shops. Engagement rates are very high. So we can see that this format is really also attractive to European users. For sure, there's so much that we also need to learn about how to make it, you know, perfect for the target audiences. But we can really see that yeah, it's engaging and people are enjoying this kind of format. And
so do you know what kinds of content people buy? Because, like, for example, there's some content that I love watching, but I'm not going to buy through it. But then there's other content that probably would get me to buy.
Well, again, I think that's really this discovery piece that each brand has to do. They have to discover, you know their target audience and just test around a little bit. And I really think some live shows will be more for the engagement factor, and some will be more geared towards actually driving conversion. Obviously, customers like QVC that we're working with, they know exactly what they need to do to drive sales because that's their core business model, except on a different channel now. And others are just, you know, starting that journey, only just discovering what works and what doesn't work.
Cool, thank you.
Don't want to generalize because there is no, I'm afraid, no sort of one-shot answer for that. Yeah, and yeah, this is in terms of user journey, but to be fair, I had already described it, how step by step as a user you just swipe up and you're in the live experience. And then as a last sort of inspirational quote, the CEO of Taobao says, which I couldn't agree with more, that live streaming is not just some sort of feature, it really is going to be one of the mainstream e-commerce models of the future. And yeah, with that, I leave you to your questions.
Wonderful. Do you want to just close the presentation so that we can see our beautiful faces? Hello, everybody. So, you know, what I'd really love to know is how somebody who maybe has just completely suddenly gone online, how they get themselves ready for live shopping. Because I know that, you know, a lot of retailers, they would have had some kind of e-commerce presence, but it wouldn't have been huge because, you know, 80% of sales were still coming from brick and mortar. And now all of a sudden they've had to do all of this e-commerce. And I think a lot of people are feeling a little bit out of water. And then they also get this kind of presentation, and then that might just freak them out because it might be like, look, I've just learned how to use Shopify, leave me alone. So is there some kind of journey that people can take? You know, how do you go from having a very simple e-commerce site to maybe having, you know, an Instagram account? Should you do some Instagram lives just so you learn how to engage? Like what should people do so then one day they can graduate to that level?
I think it's a good point you make. So in China, where they're much more advanced, they obviously have their sort of in-house key opinion leaders that they're building. But I find one aspect very interesting. Most likely, if you have quite a few shops, you'll find some of your, you know, the people working in your shops are actually quite good in front of the camera and actually quite enjoy doing this kind of thing. And often when we speak to brands, they're a little bit hesitant to ask their staff, but sometimes we just walk into the stores ourselves. At the moment, not so much, but we used to do this and just ask around like, hey, would you be willing to try this? Would you be willing to try this? And you'd be quite surprised how many people are actually quite excited about trying this. So sometimes it might seem like a hurdle or like the talent is the biggest problem. More often it's not. I mean, it's really more sort of getting out and trying. And then, yes, I agree. You know, if this or building something like Lisa, which is not expensive, but still for some brands, it might seem, you know, like they want to try first whether live streaming is generally for them. Of course, I would also advise going via social media or YouTube and just giving it a bit of a test, see how your audience reacts. For sure makes sense. And also there's agencies, you know, that are really good at helping to find influencers that fit your brand, actually like Orpiva, which is also in Founders Factory, based in the UK. You know, they could help you find an influencer which is in your price range, who's good in front of the camera, who can help, you know, help you along that journey of making your products or selling your products via live stream online.
I think there's another way of looking at it as well, is that actually it's very much replicating the old school model of selling, like in a shop, having a conversation with somebody, engaging them, talking to them about the product, which should be more natural to a lot of retailers than actually just sticking photos of products up on Shopify and hoping that they're going to sell when you don't know how to drive traffic to a website and so on. So it actually should be more natural to kind of proper retailers if they see it as just a new way to communicate with our customers rather than this like, you know, whiz-bang technology that is going to be complex to get your head around.
That's a really interesting point that you make, especially Sophie, when you were talking about the sales assistants versus the head office, because we literally had exactly that experience. So on our app, women can get feedback from professional stylists, and there's a very big retailer that we wanted to work with, and literally they would be like, yes, we're interested, and then, you know, you would send them an email, and then like 6 months would go by, and then they'll be like, yeah, can you come in for like a 3-hour meeting which would be like a series of, you know, 9 meetings. Anyway, so like nothing was happening and time was being wasted. So we just thought, okay, we'll sod it. We really want to work. We at least want to say that we're working with these people. And so we literally went to their shop assistants and we said, you know, will you be the professional? Because they had stylists working in their shops, and we basically said, will you be a stylist on our app? And you can say where you're working, because, you know, where you're working gives you credibility. And because those shop assistants were generally young women, they were digital natives, they already had Instagram accounts, that talking to them was super easy. And so we ended up working with them that way. Whereas actually going through head office, that just never happened because they had, like, I don't know, they just weren't into it. So there is a way. So people,
and also maybe just on that thought, just really quickly, there's another fallacy that we need to build this huge sort of studio setup, right? Absolutely not. People actually quite like if it's authentic and real, and if you have nice shops and, you know, good salespeople, that's a great place to start. It's, you know, just do that.
Yeah, and especially if you're the founder, you know, I'm just thinking out loud that in the UK, street markets are opening up, and I could just, you know, just have this image of like a farmer from Somerset selling his cheese. I mean, I would watch that, but I do not need to eat any more cheese.
Live stream shopping is a massive thing in farming in China, where loads of people don't know where their food comes from. And so they want to see it in the farms being put into baskets before they buy it. So we have seen a couple of startups.
That is kind of
look at live stream farming.
I would imagine if like it was like a good looking farmer, preferably without a shirt, telling you about his cheese.
I think you're taking it a bit further. That's not my experience.
Well, anyway, if that comes across your desk, then I'm going to be your first customer.
Afford it.
So, before I completely deteriorate into my fantasies about shirtless farmers, do we have any more questions? Because if we don't, then I should probably stop talking and let these lovely ladies go. So, any more? I'm just gonna let you type if you need to. in the meantime. So Sophie, in Germany, shops are reopening, so that means that retailers are now combining live shopping to people who are still at home with actually selling to humans. Whereas I think in the UK, we're still pretty close, and what, we're reopening on the 15th, is that right, Isabella?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to
I think
be
a lot of retailers are wondering whether it's right to reopen them.
I just don't see it happening.
There's not enough footfall.
Because I'm not going, I mean, the way I hear you have to shop, like shoes are going to be sprayed each time you try them on, which it's probably not going to be good for the shoes. So anyway, I'm not so
I
sure.
think people here are going to stores because they have to. The sort of experiential side of things is not happening very much. It's just not fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I will take that as no more questions. So thank you so much, Sophie and Isabella. This has been really interesting. I've learned so much. And audience, we've got a treat coming up for you on Friday, because I'm letting you save 100%. No, I'm giving you a 100 times saving on something. So Ishwari Thopte, who is, she was at the Center of Fashion Enterprise. She's teaching a course at the University of Arts London on new fashion business models enabled by technology, and her course is 360 quid. Now she's giving a summary of that course for £3.60 to Enty Insights on Friday. So, you know, don't tell me I don't bring you a bargain. I'll send, if you already don't have the invitation, then I'm going to send it to you. And then I think the next one, which we're still working on, is going to be an inside of Amazon fashion, but I just need to get them to, you know, I'm still coaxing them, but I'm working on it. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.